So then on the bottom part of page 2, before we try this one on our own, page 403, number 68, take a moment to make sure you've copied down what you saw happening in the previous examples. Talk it out loud to yourself or tell somebody that you're with what you saw happening, especially if you saw yet another way how to solve this problem. That's excellent. And you still got to the same answer. That's beautiful. So, and then attempt this one. Sorry about that. Attempt number 68 here on page 403. And you might want to start by asking yourself what's different about this problem. Okay, so what is different about this problem? Well, you've got a power to a power on the top, power to power on the bottom. Again, it's just combining some things we've seen before separately. We know how to do this on top, we know how to do this on the bottom. How do we deal with it together? So you don't want to start making up new rules at this point. You don't get to say, well, y squared cancels with y cubed. That disregards the relationship that's happening here. You need to deal with the fact that it's 2 raised to 5 first, 3 raised to 4 first. Let's check to see how you did. If you haven't paused already, pause the video at this point and try this problem on your own, because I'm about to reveal the answer. So you should get 1 over y squared as your final answer. How did we get there? Well, one way to do it would be to, again, I'll just make a note here, lots of ways to start these problems. But there's only one correct answer on each of them. There's only one simplified version. So if you've got a power to a power, that's like saying you're multiplying those exponents. So you get y to the 2 times 5 up top and y to the 3 times 4 on the bottom. That's y to the 10th or y to the 12th. You can imagine canceling the 10 on the top with 10 of the 12 on the bottom, leaving 2 on the bottom. Some of you might say, hey, I know this. When I divide, I subtract the top minus the bottom exponent. That would give me y to the negative 2, which would give you a chance to practice your negative exponents, because the negative pushes this to the other part of the fraction. It's on top. Technically right now you don't see the 1, but it's on top of a 1. The negative would push that y squared to the bottom. Notice the 2 is still there. The negative's gone because it's done its job. It's flipped it. Don't flip out when you see a negative exponent. Flip it. And then the 1, of course, when it's been pushed away, there's nothing left, then it's just a plain old 1. So your answer is 1 over y squared. That's just one way to do that one. Lots of ways to tackle it. Now, what if you saw something like number 60 here down at the bottom? Parentheses, negative 3 y to the negative 1, parentheses, negative 3. What's different here? We've got a negative in front of a number. We've seen that before. We've got a negative in the exponent. We're starting to get used to that. That's what this section is about. But then you have the whole thing raised to a negative. So what do? Do you do a double flip? Do you use the rules of exponents? Can you use the rules of exponents? Again, this is going to feel a little tenuous maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's going to feel like you maybe not sure which way to go until you've done a lot of these, because there's more than one way to start the problem. It's like if you're trying to drive around the block to the opposite corner, you could go, you know, if you're here and you want to get here, you can go up the street and then turn left, or you could go ahead and take a right and then go up. I mean, there's a lot of ways to start these problems, but you end up in the same point. So take heart if you just look at it and go, I just don't know which way to choose. Pick one and see if you're applying it correctly, if you get to the right answer. Now, what would be my first instinct? Oh, there's a lot of things here. The negatives make me nervous because I tend to drop negatives. So I think I want to deal with getting as many out of here as I can. So I'm noticing right away that I've got negative 1 applied to the y, but it has nothing to do with the negative 3 sitting here. So I'm going to go ahead and start. This is not the way to do it. This is just one way to do it. But I'm going to go and start in dealing with the inside. And notice I just go ahead and just copy the negative 3 power on the outside. Leave that alone. I'm just dealing with what's on the inside. And that negative 1 that applies just to the y, the negative is going to do its job by pushing the y into the denominator and then taking that exponent with it, the y to the first. But the negative's gone now because the negative's done its job, pushing it from the numerator to the denominator. The negative 3 is unaffected. It stays right here. Now already that just seems like something I can deal with. I'll just rewrite it as negative 3 over y, the whole thing raised to the negative third. Now again, I tend to drop negatives, so I want to deal with those negatives as soon as I can. I'm seeing this negative power again, and I know what to do because I know that I don't flip out, I don't freak out. I just use that negative to flip the fraction. Because this negative exponent is outside this entire parentheses, I'm going to flip this entire fraction. So that means my y comes up on the top, my negative 3 goes on the bottom. The negative exponent has done its job on the flip, and all I'm left with is the 3 exponent. So the negative 3 goes on the bottom, y goes on the top. The negative in the exponent has done its job. That's what caused the flip. And now I'm just left with the plain old 3 as the exponent. From here, the rule says I apply it to both places. If I forget the rule, I can go ahead and write it out by definition, y times itself 3 times, negative 3 times itself 3 times. And that might be good to help me remember that this is y cubed over, watch this, negative 3 in parentheses raised to the third power, because the 3 applies this entire piece because it's outside the parentheses of it. So, and final version of that would be y cubed over negative 27. Negative 3 cubed is negative 27.